Dr. Swamy for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my knowledge and experiences in this field of yoga, which is now catching up the whole world. But many of us have some apprehension and doubt whether what is being practiced throughout the world is yoga. This is a vast subject. It's very difficult to enlighten you this particular science of yoga in about 45 minutes. The title of this talk is The Science Behind the Yoga. There are two key terms here, science and yoga. I will first take up the word yoga, the science, and then connect it to yoga, how yoga can be treated as a science. Some thousands of years ago, when man became conscious of himself, he started looking at the forces of nature outside. The mysteries of nature were so profound and shocking for this ancient man. But since he was not evolved as the present human being, he was simply expressing his wonder, his surprise at the power of nature. And therefore, he started worshipping these forces of nature because he could not understand the mystery. And his reasoning power was very limited. As I have just now said, that he was yet to be evolved, yet to be developed in the intellectual sense. But when man became little evolved intellectually, then he started probing into the mysteries of nature. This probing went in two directions, in two hemispheres of this world, the West and the East. In the West, man used the intellect as an instrument, a tool. Because intellect has the power of questioning, has the power of going deeper into the phenomenon. So he started questioning, and out of this questioning came out knowledge. And he propounded theories. Theory after theory came into existence. And this knowledge is labeled as scientific knowledge. But the tool that is used in this inquiry was intellect, that is buddhi. The Western man could not go beyond that. But the result of all this inquiry is what is known as scientific knowledge. Remember, the phenomenal knowledge that you see in the university libraries has mostly come from this West. Because the West has developed a lot. And the Western man's intellect was very sharp. And therefore you have so many discoveries in science and inventions. And the knowledge has exploded. Too many specializations have come into existence, and so on. In the East, especially in this land, the inquiry had taken in a different direction. In the West, the inquiry was directed outside of him. It was focused more on the matter, on the phenomenon, on the visible phenomenon, the visible world, the visible matter. Look, in the West, the inquiry moved to the outside, and therefore you have that kind of knowledge. But in the East, the inquiry has taken in a different form. It said, without me, how could there be an inquiry? Who is this? If this inquirer is not there, where is the world outside? The matter outside? Can the matter have an independent existence? So therefore, the inquiry had taken within. Oh, the inquiry started. I am, and who is this I am? He looked at the form and said, if I am the body, well, this body will not last for long. It is not eternal. It's not permanent. It will perish. And therefore, if I'm not the body, then what else am? And there is a mind that inquires, that questions. there is a thinking process, and that is invisible. Then what is this mind? And this mind also goes along with the body. As the body perishes, the mind also perishes. Therefore, the body is not permanent, the mind is not permanent. Then what else is there that activates this organism? If I could understand myself clearly, then it is easier for me to understand the outside phenomena. So here too, in this land, man started questioning, but he did not question the matter outside of him, but he questioned within. He questioned himself. And then for this proper questioning, he needed right ambience. So he went to the forest because he wanted a complete free atmosphere, free from all external disturbances. So he moved to the forest. And then there he started contemplating, reflecting deeply. That finally led him to meditation, dhyana. But then when he used the same tool, intellect, the intellect could take him to a particular level, and beyond that he could not reach. The intellect became helpless for him. So this intellect, which took this man to that level where he could see the futility of it, and that intellect automatically dropped itself because he became tired of that intellect and he could not proceed further with that intellect. And therefore the intellect dropped on its own and he entered into a different state. And this state is called, this state of mind is called intuition. And this intuition is a no-mind state where there is no thinking, there is no thought process. It is a state of a complete silence. It was in this state that, and this contemplative man started experiencing the revelations, and thus the wisdom was born. Look, the inquiry in these two hemispheres was the same, but it taken in two different directions. In the West, the intellect was used as a tool, but in the East, this man transcended the limitation of intellect because he realized that intellect cannot comprehend the incomprehensible. Therefore, it dropped on its own and entered into a state called intuition. And it was in this state of intuition that he captured the mysteries of creation. What the speaker is trying to say is that the knowledge that was propounded in the West has its own validity. It has its own value. That scientific knowledge value. Whereas this knowledge in the East has its own significance. And that is called intellectual knowledge. This is called intuitive knowledge. That knowledge was born within the realm of intellect. But here, this knowledge was born within the realm of intuition. This is the only difference between the West and the East. And this kind of connectivity that had taken place in that state between the subject and the object outside. And there was this kind of perfect balance and harmony that the subject could undergo that kind of state of experience. And it was in this state, this state where the subject had established a complete union with the outside creation, the cosmos. And this is what was known as yoga. And this was called a classical yoga, Raja Yoga. And this Raja Yoga was mainly focused on the meditation. So the sages in those days meditated deeply. And this was the first form of yoga. And this was the traditional yoga. So what we find in this is that they used the tool dhyana, meditation. And out of this tool, they had undergone that kind of state of experience. And that was how the profound wisdom was revealed in the Upanishads, which were given to us in this land. But as the time went by, this yoga became corrupt. This form of yoga became corrupt. The kind of yoga that had existed thousands of years ago, that was practiced by the sages living in the forest, was known as Raja Yoga, classical yoga. It mainly focused on the mind. And later in the course of time, we got to different forms of yoga. And the one that evolved more in the last 4 to 5 centuries was known as Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga mainly focuses on the body, on the physical, whereas a Raja Yoga on the mind, the classical yoga. And when Swamy Vivekananda went to the United States, he was the first yogi who had introduced this knowledge in the West. But he introduced that Raja Yoga. But these Americans, the people in the West, found it difficult to sit and meditate. And they were more concerned with their body, their health. So when the Swami Vivekananda had left, the other forms, the other gurus went to the West. They seized this, that most Americans, most Europeans were worried about the body. They became more conscious of their health and fitness. So they introduced this Hatha Yoga. But then, in course of time, this Hatha Yoga also became corrupt. Several forms of martial arts entered into it. So the kind of yoga that is in practice in the world is what is known as fitness yoga. It is not real yoga. Because this yoga, this form of yoga is focused more on the body, on the health. Of course, health is more important. Without health, we cannot do anything in this world. Thousands of years ago, there came a sage by name Patanjali. Patanjali systematized, organized the form of yoga that was scattered in those days in this land and gave it in a very scientific way. And his form of yoga is what is known as Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta means 8, Anga means limbs, 8-limbed yoga. This comprises Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Look at these 8-limbed yoga. It's a gradual movement from one limb to another limb, which makes the sadhaka evolve gradually. And each limb deals with a particular aspect of a human body. Yama and Niyama. Yama and Niyama, these two are like what you should do, what you should not do in life. Yama contains 5 principles. Similarly, Niyama contains 5 principles, 5 virtues. They are cardinal virtues. And these Yama Niyamas deal with the vital aspect of human body. The vital here represents emotions and feelings. Asana and pranayama. Asana deals with the body and pranayama with the nerves and nerve centers within the body. Pratyahara deals with the sense organs. And dharana and dhyana deal with the mind. So each limb deals with one particular aspect of a human body. And it was scientifically proved that the whole human body comprises 5 layers. the physical, the vital, the mental, the intellectual, the psychic, and finally the spiritual. The vital, the physical is about the body. The vital is about the emotions and feelings. The mental is about your mind. The intellectual, that is about the reasoning power of your mind. And then above that you have the spiritual, the psychic and the spiritual. So when we practice these limbs, moving from yama and niyama are more important because the ethical life is the foundation for your spiritual life. If your ethical foundation is weak, your spiritual life will become lean. Your life will crumble. No matter you may be great in your own field, no matter you may hold any position in the society, but if your ethical foundation is weak, then life crumbles. Therefore, Patanjali has given more importance to the ethical aspect of living. If this ethical aspect is strong in you, automatically it takes you to the higher levels. And that is why his Ashtanga Yoga begins with these virtues, yama and niyama. Just as a structure requires a strong foundation to stand firmly on the ground, so also if this human life wants to have that strength, then we need that foundation, that is ethical foundation. Once our ethical foundation is strong, our character is strong, then we move to the next step that is called asana. But Patanjali has never explained or never dealt with various forms of asanas that are being in practice in the world, that many schools, that many yoga masters teach. As I was said, these asanas entered 4 to 5 centuries ago. And not all the asanas, there are 3 important texts, Hatha Yoga texts, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Shiva Samhita and Garindra Samhita. These are the only 3 texts, Hatha Yoga texts, which deals with the Hatha Yoga. And even in the Garindra Samhita, you find only the 32 asanas, not more than that. And more focus is laid on the sitting posture. So therefore, the kind of asanas that are in practice, or the various forms of asanas taught in many schools in the world, do not constitute yoga in the real sense. So Patanjali has not dealt with it. In fact, in one of the sutras says, Stiram Sukham Asanam. That is how he defines asana. Asana means the posture. And this posture requires 2 essential conditions, Stiram and Sukham. Stiram means stable. Sukham means comfortable. So in whatever posture you are, if you feel comfortable, and if you remain there in that posture for long, without moving your body, and that is asana. And this asana, which fulfills these two conditions, is important for meditation, for dhyana. This is how Patanjali has defined asana. And he has never introduced all these asanas. As I've said, Patanjali's yoga is called Raja Yoga. It focuses mainly on the mind. And he defines yoga as Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga. Chitta means mind, Nirod. Vritti means modification. Nirodha means elimination. Elimination of modifications of mind is what is known as yoga. So the Ashtanga Yoga mainly focuses on mind, not on body. Whereas Hatha Yoga, that is in practice in the world, focuses on the mind, on the body. But then when you take this organism, this organism contains body and mind. Body is visible, mind is invisible. But we can feel the mind, we can feel the thought, we can feel the idea. Without which that we cannot do anything in the world. What yoga says, in fact, it has several shades of meaning. One meaning is union. Many of you must be familiar with yoga is a union between the Jivatma and Paramatma. But let us not bother about Paramatma because we don't know what Paramatma is. We don't know what lies beyond the mountain. But if you want to experience what lies beyond the mountain, you need to climb the mountain. So therefore, let us keep that definition of yoga, the union between the Jivatma and Paramatma. Paramatma is invisible. We don't know what it is. But Jivatma is a reality. This is a reality. This exists. And you see, I can see my body, my mind, everything. So this is a reality. So let's achieve union here first. Then the union between this organism and outside the creation takes place automatically. The union here is between this visible body and the invisible mind. There is a vast gap between these two elements. The mind goes in one direction, the body goes in one direction, in another direction. The body is important as much as the mind. When you are left alone, who is with you? Your wife is not with you. Your relations are not with you. But the body is with you. This is a reality. So therefore, when you are alone, you are with the body. You are with the mind. And look at Watch yourself. You see how the body functions and how the mind functions. There is a vast gap between these two. There is no harmony between mind and body. Mind says something, body says something. Body does not listen to mind, mind does not listen to the body. Both are like two parallel lines. They never meet each other anywhere. The one meaning I'm just examining is the union. The union between body and mind